bom dia, sejam bem-vindos a este segundo dia do FICIS. Vamos dar início agora à sessão Smart Society and Communities. Esta sessão conta com o INL, Instituto Ibérico Internacional de Nanotecnologia, com a Universidade Católica e com a United Nations University. É moderada por Carlos Rodrigues, docente da Universidade de Aveiro.
Hello, everyone. The next speaker is Professor Lars Montelius, the Director General of INL, International Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory. The talk is on smart society and communities.
Good morning, everyone. So I start by sharing my screen here. I think now you see the screen and my presentation. So as George said, the title of my talk is Smart Society and Communities. And I would like to give you my understanding of how we can build a smart society together and what it will actually imply.
So with the COVID-19, how different would be everything if a smart society would be already in place?
And that's a very, very good question. So let me try to highlight that. So if we already would have had a smart society and then would have an outbreak like COVID-19, what could have been the difference? And I would say that I think we have three things that we would have been able to do a little bit better. One of the things would be a really smart detection system, a system that would be allow us to have a detection before we are having the symptoms ourselves. So already when we are infected. So that's one thing. A second thing, and people are working on this now, of course, as a consequence of COVID-19. So this will happen. This will be there for the next pandemic that will appear for sure. A second thing is a good tracking system. And that would be a system that would allow us to know with whom did we actually speak, let's say the last 48 hours, what places did we visit? So it's principally using our mobile phones and geolocation data, and then giving the information that where we have been, so we can isolate the next person that we may transmit the disease to. So that is the second thing I think that would have been a big difference if we would have had a smart society already now. And the third thing I think is the obvious thing is the utilization of the big data.
Such a system would indeed put a consequence on an open society and data privacy concerns. How do you perceive such technological possibilities to be implemented while protecting the citizens' privacy?
Yeah, this is very good, because I think what happened now is that several countries have developed made part of these kind of tracking systems, and that jeopardize a bit the privacy. So how could we actually enable to get the better privacy? And one thing to kind of cope with that would be to have a system that gives the individual person the information. So the information is not gathered by some kind of authority, but it's really the person in itself that gets information saying that, you know, yesterday you were in contact with someone that today has been shown to have been infected. So you should now stay at home for 2 weeks before you go out and meet some other person as a precaution measure. It's a recommendation, so it's not a kind of a strict regulatory thing, but something that will recommend me how I can behave better, recommend me how I can preserve myself as well as my fellows around me and get this information. So I think it's something that is on a personal level that give me this information and not really captured by an authority. And then the authority tells me what I should do. So it's much more participatory. And yeah, I think this kind of brings us to what I would say, the possibility through the digitalization and through the smart cities to get people, citizens that are empowered. So this leads to the empowered citizens, which I think is the key essence in a way of a smart city and a smart society and a smart community.
So you have mentioned empowered citizens. Can you elaborate a bit more on that concept?
Yeah, so the empowered citizens, it has many dimensions, but I mean, one dimension is what I would like to show here in this slide. So this is a street view from Saigon, a busy street in the evening there some years ago. And what you could believe or what you could think about is that all these people have different kind of, call it gadgets, or different kind of things implanted in the bodies maybe, or other things on their kind of in the mobile phone to measure the food quality and different things. So everything is about the technology that we are now developing that can be incorporated or embedded in all kind of things in our own bodies, as well as on the things that we are working with the plates that we're using when we eat, the mugs that we're using when we drink something, and the different things we are touching, like you can call it trusted surfaces, if you like. I mean, the surfaces you touch, you should know that they are trusted. There is no infection on them. They are telling you with the light, green, okay, it's okay to touch me. Red, it's not okay to touch me. And these are things you can think about in shopping carts, in a shopping mall. When you go and buy your food, you don't touch the handrails, etc., etc. So all these kind of technology that is now becoming so extremely immersive, of course, but also so cheap due to the microelectronic revolution, that we actually can do these things and embed it into different kind of tools or different kind of things that will give information back to the citizen. And I think this is the kind of paradigm of the empowered citizens. So this is one dimension that is. Another dimension, which is kind of similar, it's that if you don't have the full picture, then you cannot really evaluate things around you. And this is just now shown in this kind of stupid thing with the elephant here, right? But if you think about this, so to be an empowered citizen is really to have the information that you need in order to be able to have a full understanding what is around you. So this is the second dimension, let's call it like that. So each individual thing is reporting to you as a citizen, empower you to take the right decisions that will help you to live your life in the best possible way. So this is second dimension. And maybe a third dimension is something that is more related with how authorities and how people need to have a better, I would say, articulation of things. So this is just a cartoon here. Some guy saying, "What are you doing?" And the person here answers, "I'm cutting stone," which is correct. It's exactly what this person is doing. But there is another answer to this question which is much more interesting, and that is to say, "I'm building a cathedral," because that is actually what the person is doing by cutting stone. And this kind of empowerment to give the information that allows the citizens to fully understand what is happening is a third dimension of these empowered citizens. And you can say this is like articulation that needs to go in all kind of layers in society, from the top kind of layers and from the bottom up perspective. And I think this for me, this kind of captures the empowered citizens, which is essential for a smart city and a smart society, smart community.
So this leads to another concept, which is the concept of stakeholders capitalism. Can you elaborate a bit more about what is this kind of new kind of capitalism?
Yeah. So just one more minute maybe about this with empowered citizens. So when we speak empowered citizens, I think the previous slides give you some understanding what the kind of knowledge that will be provided, or the kind of competence that will be provided to the citizens to make the right decisions. And then what are the things that you can get from smart cities? And it's everything related to like air pollution, water quality, traffic digestion, parking spaces, and a lot of other things that will enable you to take the right decision. So a smart city is not only related to having some kind of authority that knows about air quality in a city, for instance, or knows about the traffic digestion problems in the city. It's really about bringing this information to the individual citizen. And this is I think it's a consequence of making the information personalized. And this, in my thinking, is that this is aligned to this kind of shift from kind of a shareholders capitalism to stakeholders capitalism. And the difference is that the shareholders, they get the profit, let's call it like that. And in the stakeholders capitalism, there are still shareholders that get in profit, but the biggest profit is for the stakeholders, that are the people, the city, the kind of let's call it sport activities, etc., etc. So it's really about the different stakeholders that can capitalize and have a better future. And you can think about this in I think in maybe two ways. I mean, two simple ways. So one way is to think about the building project. Someone is going to build something big, huge, magnificent. Today, it's a building constructor or a kind of consortium with people that are financing this. And then they decide that this is going to be built according to some specifications. It could be public space, or it could be whatever. It could be a sports arena, whatever. So someone is paying it, and this someone having the kind of power to decide who is going to have the contract. So you open tenders, and then you recruit people, and the people who started, they're actually paying people to do the service, to build it. And they're getting paid to do the work, of course. So they charge you per hour or whatever, and you pay as the constructor. And then in the end, when it's done, it's ready, you as the owner of this, you can start to sell it out in small pieces. Maybe it's a apartment house with many apartments, and then you start to sell each apartment. So all the profit goes to you, who was the guy who had the financing ability to finance this. In a shareholders capitalism, it will instead be a little bit different. So you don't have someone that is putting all the money there from the beginning, but all the people that participate will take a stake in the future. So they do the work without getting paid, by knowing they were getting paid later. So instead of having one shareholder that sells all the fruits that comes out of this investment, all the people that participated in the realization of this investment can also share the result out of it. So this is the kind of shareholders or the stakeholders capitalism kind of concept in this dimension. Another dimension is something we know. We have a lot of elderly people, and some elderly people may have a good kind of financial status, and others may not have. And if they don't have, they may live in a house that need renovation, and they cannot afford. And since they don't have an income, they cannot get a loan and finance a renovation of the house or their apartment. And in the shareholders capitalism, you could say that, well, okay, I will help you, and then I will kind of get a stake in the house when it's sold, when you are not living any longer, or when you are leaving the house to live somewhere else. So it's a way to getting part of the profit that is created by the contribution. Of course, you don't get paid when you do the work, but you share the profit or the good thing that is coming out of this. So this is the difference between the kind of stakeholders and the shareholders capitalism. Of course, I mean, you still need people that can provide capital, of course, but it's a different kind of concept how you can share these things together. So it's more like a commons, something that you can share with many people, and you can think a bit of this in many different dimensions. And in a smart society, in a smart community, I think you should really put efforts in to do things together, and then everyone will benefit out of it.
In what ways is INL contributing to this and to the creation of a smart society?
Yeah, so I mean, INL, just as an introduction for those of you that do not really know it, INL is an intergovernmental laboratory situated here in Braga, and we are working with the international community. So we have now people, about 450 people at INL from about 40 different countries. We are working worldwide, and we are kind of integrating different knowledge worldwide in order to come up with solutions or suggestions for a more better society in the future. So this is what we're doing, and we're running that through various kind of programs. Of course, we have an incubator, we have our own commercial company, IP Ventures, that commercialize the IP that we generate, and we have a Scale Travels program where we have artists in residencies at INL that help us to articulate and help us to explain what we're doing, as well as creating a new kind of channel for dissemination of information, and also understanding internally at the research community that we can spread worldwide. So this is what about INL, so to say. And then what we do now at INL, particularly related with the COVID-19, is that we're taking a stake in setting up a concerted partnership that will allow us to develop a very novel and rapid COVID-19 detection system. And we are doing that in different kind of generations. We have something that is really urgent now, which are the generation 0, generation 1, which is within weeks. And then we are building also further on generation 2, 3, and 4 that will have more like months, maybe up to even years, but different kind of dimensions, of course. And then these were the systems that would allow us to detect specifically for COVID, but not only for COVID, but also for other kind of virus systems in the future. And then in parallel to this, we're also working on a breath analyzer that we are going to putting efforts now to develop, that would be ready within, let's say, weeks and months, that would allow to make an easy kind of test, maybe at home even, and to analyze your breath, whether you have the possibility to spread virus particles through speaking or through coughing or through sneezing. And we have a good confidence that we will be able to come up with something that is really interesting in this concept. We are working with many different entities about this, both locally here, local partners in Braga, in Portugal, and in Spain, but also internationally, to come up with very good solutions. And then besides these things right now, we're also producing face shields masks at INL now, as we are speaking. And these face shield masks we are distributing to people in need, primarily to hospitals in Spain and Portugal, which is our member states, but those are other entities in Spain and Portugal that are in great need, particularly the ones that maybe have a great need, although the quantity is small, because our production capability is not huge. We don't have the industrial capability to produce these face shield masks, but we put all our efforts together and we'll come up with a very good solution. And we're now in a really production mode to do that. And we're now starting to distribute them to various hospitals around us, as well as other need takers. So this is what we do right now at INL. And then when we talk about these kind of smart communities and smart societies, so if you look on the right of this slide, the research areas, as you see, smart city, industry 4.0, sensors, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, spintronics, precision agriculture, precision food, precision environment, energy, battery, blockchain-enabled food authenticity and traceability, but not only for food, but also a new way of having a guaranteed quality and a guaranteed authenticity of goods and products. And we have a big program in the biomedical technologies that we're now kind of bootstrapping in order to develop new diagnostic technologies for COVID specifically, as well as now in the theranostic field. So using different kind of nanofluidic systems, and we're putting efforts into the quantum materials and technology and the nanosafety aspects. So all these things, they are pointed towards, I would say, smart cities, smart sustainable cities, smart communities, and sustainability at large. And the kind of business area we are touching is the mobility, food, medtech, and startup activities, etc. So what we have at INL, what you see in the picture, is our rapid prototyping wafer fabrication facility. It's a clean room. It's one of the biggest or most advanced clean rooms in the Iberian Peninsula. And we have a lot of really high efficiency equipment there. So the total investment of INL was about 100 million euro, and the investments in equipment was about 65 million euro. So it's one of the most best equipped laboratories in Europe, I would say, even in the world, because everything is connected in one house. Everything is there, and we are totally multidisciplinary. So we have people from all kinds of disciplines that we are working with in order to address various aspects. So this is the kind of overview of INL in that perspective. If we look more kind of in a maybe broader perspective, connecting to this with the smart cities, smart societies. So what we do a lot is what you can capture in this left circle, which is the data generation. So we are specialized in making different kinds of sensors. And these sensors are the things that you can put in your hip implant, or you can put it in to detect food quality, etc. So all these sensors, they are done on the micro and nano scale. And we are going now into the quantum sensors paradigm as well, which is the paradigm for the future. And the idea and the whole transition is to go from a kind of a general sensor to a specific sensor. So it's sensitive for one specific thing. And then you don't need to consume so much power, because you don't need to have a sensor that senses a lot of things. One example is take the Apple watches we have. It senses a lot of things. The pulse rate, it senses how many steps you're taking, and a lot of other things. And this is the reason why the battery don't last so long. But if it's more specialized, the battery will last longer. So, and then the battery will be smaller. So the whole paradigm of going to smaller things is to reduce the energy consumption and make things more specific, personalized to you, personalized to a specific cause, maybe to measure, let's say, the sugar content or the glucose content in your blood, for instance, for a glucose detector, and to do it very specific, maybe integrate it in a contact lens geometry, and then have the energy harvesting by the glucose in the tail liquid, so no additional battery needed. Really generate the electricity by ourselves, and also put it in this kind of sensing generation. So different generations for sensing, what you see here in this circle. So that's one thing. And then if you go to the next level, is that if we generate all this data, then we need to communicate it, of course. And here comes all the things happening around us now with the 5G, 6G, the high-speed kind of communication links. And to the ultimate, if you go to the ultimate, you're coming to the quantum communication, which we addressing now, which will be very safe. It really it's a proved communication link, and it cannot be looked into, or no one can really hear about what this communication is transmitting without the sender or the receiver would know it. So it's totally safe. And so this is the kind of second level. So we have the sensors, we need to communicate it, and when we communicate it to something, usually we communicate it to, let's say, the cloud or so, but it's really to communicate it to computers that will analyze the data that is generated by the sensors. And this generation of this data, or analyzing this data, you need the computers, and the computers are specific, and supercomputers and quantum computers in the future that will have an immense capacity, of course, to analyze data. And then all these things connects beautifully to the analysis of the data, where we have all these kind of new ways of doing that. You can call it deep learning analysis or artificial intelligence. So it's nothing complicated more than by using a lot of data from very many different kind of ways, you can aggregate the full understanding. It's a little like the elephant cartoon that I showed in the beginning. By getting the full picture, you can understand much more better the global understanding. So, and these things, they are kind of connected. So when you are out here, you suddenly realize that you need some more information, and then you kind of go back, and you go back to the the kind of sensor level. And this is how this kind of feedback system is working. So we develop more and more better sensors that will be deployed in reality, in society, in order to provide the information that the empowered citizens will need to know. And so this is it's kind of ecosystem working together. So everything, data generation, communication, computation, analysis. And this just goes around all the time. And by enhancing in different kind of generations, let's call it like that. So we have the micro technology generation, nanotechnology, the quantum sensors, and the communication the same, the speed and security, 5G, 6G, and the quantum communication. So I think this captures the kind of ecosystem that INL is working in. And of course, then we articulate it in different layers, like spin out companies when there is something that is specific to a specific application that we can do something about in order to make life a bit better and the more sustainable for the future. So I would say, I would welcome you all to INL, and we are open to work with you. We are full of passionate people that are really eager to engage and making society to become a better place, a more sustainable place. And we are full of ideas, but we also love to hear your ideas, so we can do much more co-creation and be able to cope and come up with new solutions that will give us a better future. So with those words, I would like to say thank you to everyone been listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Muito bom dia a todos os teleparticipantes. Saúdo de forma especial os ilustres colegas deste painel e felicito de forma especial também a organização deste evento tão interessante para a nossa reflexão atual. Irei intitular a minha comunicação A cidade como comunidade de comunidades. Irei elaborá-la em 6 pequenos passos e concentrá-la-ei numa reflexão da relação entre a vida comunitária, ou as comunidades propriamente, e as tecnologias digitais contemporâneas. Tendo em conta a circunstância desta realização, tentarei lidar o melhor possível com as tecnologias para conseguir fazer alguma síntese visual também daquilo que pretendo dizer. Os modelos de cidade têm correspondido na história a modelos de sociedade e de construção de vida comunitária. É conhecida a tradicional distinção sociológica proposta nos finais do século XIX por aquele alemão Ferdinand Tönnies entre comunidade e sociedade. A primeira seria tendencialmente coletivista e totalitária, na medida em que as estruturas hierarquizadas determinavam todo o cotidiano de cada indivíduo, não sobrando espaço para opções verdadeiramente individuais, mas permitindo a construção, por outro lado, de identidades vincadas. A segunda, a sociedade, seria tendencialmente individualista, na medida em que assentaria na diferenciação das diversas esferas e por isso permitiria um âmbito próprio à vida denominada privada. Mas, por outro lado, com dificuldade em originar coesão social significativa e provocando um inevitável anonimato. E há, de facto, modelos históricos para uma e para outra destas formas. O coletivismo das cidades-estado, de todos os tempos, sobretudo antigas, os coletivismos dos feudos medievais e mesmo de certos regimes totalitários mais recentes, representam talvez o extremo da dissolução do sujeito na comunidade. Por seu turno, o individualismo das cidades modernas, sobretudo das mais desenvolvidas industrialmente, prometiam a libertação do sujeito em relação à imposição social. No primeiro caso, sacrificava-se a liberdade individual em troca de certa segurança, estabilidade e identidade. No segundo caso, o preço a pagar pela liberdade individual foi, muitas vezes, a insegurança e a incerteza, assim como a angústia do anonimato. Também as cidades da nossa região, concretamente Braga, conheceram nas últimas décadas uma transição de um modelo para o outro, ou seja, um modelo mais comunitário e talvez de teor em parte mais coletivista, sem anonimato, é certo, mas também com menos margem de manobra para cada indivíduo. Assistimos assim nos últimos tempos ao crescimento de um modelo mais individualista, mas ao mesmo tempo mais anónimo. O aumento significativo do número de habitantes, de Braga concretamente, sobretudo através da migração interna, assim como transformações sociais próprias do nosso tempo, originaram esta inevitável transformação. Nós poderíamos sintetizar este primeiro ponto do seguinte modo. Segundo a proposta, portanto, de Ferdinand Tönnies, a comunidade seria mais totalitária e identitária, a sociedade mais individualizante. O problema da primeira é dificultar a liberdade individual, o problema da segunda é originar, sobretudo o anonimato. Acontece que numa fase pós-industrial, como aquela que vivemos há décadas já, os sujeitos ganharam maior consciência dos problemas inerentes a cada um destes dois modelos. As experiências mais comunitaristas, como era talvez o caso das nossas aldeias, por exemplo, há 100 anos atrás, sonhavam com outras possibilidades para a afirmação da diversidade individual em liberdade. Por isso, ou para isso, parecia ser favorável o anonimato de uma cidade maior. Isso originou precisamente grande parte da migração. Mas precisamente a experiência desse anonimato, que entretanto fomos vivendo, originou novos desejos de relações próximas e mais intensamente comunitárias. Ora, tal como aconteceu um pouco por todo o mundo, assistimos à tentativa de construir nas redes digitais comunidades que salvem, ao mesmo tempo, do anonimato individualista e da anulação do indivíduo na comunidade. Houve mesmo alguns utopistas do mundo digital que consideraram encontrar nesse ambiente puro a realização de todos os nossos desejos humanos. Desde o seu aparecimento, que as redes sociais digitais, por exemplo, foram saudadas como instrumentos de um renascimento do espírito da autêntica comunidade. A conhecida obra de Howard Rheingold, intitulada precisamente A Comunidade Virtual, publicada em 1993, é um dos exemplos mais claros deste movimento utópico de transferência total na nossa vida comunitária, nomeadamente nas cidades maiores e mais industrializadas, onde o anonimato era mais afirmativo, para um mundo puramente digital, como nova cidade, enquanto promessa de uma cidade perfeita. Uma segunda vida, uma second life, que permitiria, de facto, construir uma cidade comunitária e, ao mesmo tempo, respeitadora das liberdades individuais. Estamos, portanto, no interior da elaboração puramente digital da vida comunitária. Este segundo ponto pode ser sintetizado do seguinte modo. As comunidades digitais propostas por Howard Rheingold, nessa obra de 1993, acabavam por pretender realizar digitalmente aquilo que as comunidades reais e as cidades reais não conseguiam realizar. Na prática, é apresentado como fuga à realidade das cidades e das comunidades reais existentes. Contudo, uma abordagem demasiado alternativa entre tecnologia e humanidade não se adequa à realidade. Para além de se revelar puro romantismo, utópico, não corresponde ao modo como os utilizadores relacionam o seu cotidiano com as tecnologias. Isso não significa que muitos aspectos da experiência vivida em mundos digitais não tenham impacto sobre o nosso cotidiano analógico. De facto, a questão é que as tecnologias provocam uma significativa reinterpretação do mundo, de todo o mundo, e não apenas de um pretenso mundo digital separado. Esta é a tese conhecida de um filósofo da tecnologia, Luciano Floridi, que no seu famoso livro A Quarta Revolução, de 2014, falava precisamente em várias ordens de tecnologia e sobre o seu impacto em relação ao mundo. Segundo ele, para além das tecnologias de primeira ordem, que são aqueles instrumentos que o ser humano utiliza para agir sobre o mundo, e as tecnologias de segunda ordem, que são instrumentos que o ser humano utiliza para agir sobre outras tecnologias, as tecnologias estão a transformar-se progressivamente em tecnologias de terceira ordem, na medida em que se tornam potencialmente autónomas em relação aos humanos, que as construíram, claro, e realizam interfaces entre elas. Pensemos, por exemplo, na relação entre computadores em rede, ou smartphones com computadores, etc., ou entre GPS e satélites, por exemplo. Isso tem necessariamente enorme impacto sobre a nossa realidade, na medida em que uma certa autonomia da tecnologia é inserida nessa realidade. E é, por sua vez, a própria realidade inserida no processo puramente tecnológico. Há uma espécie de permuta permanente. Embora o referido filósofo Floridi diga que não há tecnologias de quarta ordem, eu pergunto-me se isso não seria precisamente a interface da articulação entre tecnologias, que é o nível da terceira ordem, com certa autonomia, a interface disso com a vida da natureza e dos humanos, nomeadamente, por exemplo, através da biotecnologia e através da robotização. Ou seja, há uma relação para além da relação interna entre tecnologias, que é a relação das tecnologias ao seu exterior enquanto mundo, enquanto natureza, enquanto humanidade. Nesse sentido, já não poderemos pensar o futuro do planeta, nem o nosso cotidiano humano, sem a ação das tecnologias sobre nós. E a nossa sobre as tecnologias. Sem dramatizar essa perspectiva de futuro, que alguns colocam às vezes em termos apocalípticos, e que é uma perspectiva em certa medida também já de presente, penso que esse será e já está a ser o nosso grande desafio. As tecnologias deixarão de ser meros instrumentos, seja para criarmos vida social, seja para dela fugirmos, como pretendiam as utopias digitais, mas transforma-se numa espécie de parceiros sociais, como agentes, em certa medida autónomos, no ambiente das nossas relações sociais. As sociedades e as comunidades, a nível global, mas sobretudo a nível local, terão que aprender a integrar esses parceiros, de forma a que o seu mundo cotidiano se mantenha humano e até se torne, provavelmente, mais humano, pois a humanidade do mundo puramente analógico também tem deixado muito a desejar, como nós sabemos. Podemos sintetizar este último ponto precisamente como segue. As comunidades digitais levam a uma reavaliação do papel da tecnologia, baseado na obra de Luciano Floridi, para além das diversas ordens, diversos níveis da tecnologia que coexistem ou foram mais marcantes em algumas fases da história, coloca-se a questão de uma tecnologia de quarta ordem que acaba por se referir à interatividade entre tecnologia e natureza e tecnologia e humanidade. Chegamos assim ao que poderíamos denominar a cidade pós-digital, assumindo um conceito que Florian Kramer, em 2014, aplicou, segundo ele, novas convenções éticas e culturais que se tornaram dominantes em comunidades de internet ou em culturas de open source e que agora encontram aplicação também na elaboração de meios não digitais. Vivemos, pois, numa era pós-digital, sobretudo em contexto urbano, na medida em que muitos aspectos do nosso cotidiano não digital são marcados por hábitos e formas de ver as coisas que receberam um forte impulso no ambiente digital. Um dos aspectos desse impacto é, por exemplo, a valorização da liberdade individual, mesmo ou sobretudo em relação às instituições controladoras, mas também em relação aos mercados. E, por outro lado, a valorização da gratuidade das relações interhumanas, não sujeitas ao cálculo da rentabilidade do mercado. Aliás, é nesta permuta de dons gratuitos que o sociólogo italiano a viver em França, Antonio Casilli, vê precisamente uma das especificidades das relações digitais. Agora, essa especificidade está a influenciar as nossas relações não digitais, sobretudo na vizinhança entre os membros das comunidades urbanas, como é referido insistentemente numa obra recente do sociólogo suíço Felix Stalder, A Cultura da Digitalidade, assim denominada, em que o ambiente pós-digital é de facto a recuperação do ambiente comunitário urbano com a aplicação das categorias de comunidade herdadas do ambiente digital. E, portanto, essas comunidades valorizam cada vez mais, ou menos, cada vez menos, as instituições e as suas regras, e valorizam cada vez mais os vínculos interpessoais, como, por exemplo, a amizade. De facto, essas comunidades urbanas constroem-se com base em modelos digitais, nomeadamente inspirando-se no modelo das redes sociais, como exemplo saliente o caso do Facebook. As relações de amizade ganham força em todos os níveis, originando comunidades baseadas sobretudo em interesses comuns, mais do que em partilha de um território comum. A cidade é, por isso, cada vez mais pessoal e menos territorial. E a cidade torna-se, por esse caminho, uma comunidade de comunidades humanas. No caso das grandes metrópoles, que não é de facto o caso de Braga, nem sequer se pode falar com propriedade em cidade como comunidade de comunidades, mas deveria-se falar mais propriamente de um aglomerado de comunidades sem grande consciência de comum pertença. Essas comunidades constroem-se a partir de interesses comuns e de uma relação aberta e assente na partilha gratuita, precisamente como nas redes sociais digitais. É claro que este novo perfil de construção de comunidades, se é certo que permite uma conjugação que parece satisfatória entre a necessidade de individualização e a liberdade pessoal dos seus membros, e a igual necessidade depois também de vínculos comunitários que permitam superar o drama da solidão, também é certo que pode originar novos tribalismos no interior do espaço urbano, sobretudo em cidades maiores. Fazendo assentar a comunidade nos comuns interesses dos sujeitos, estes podem originar competição e até conflito com comunidades com interesses diferentes, por exemplo, ou então com interesses concorrentes. A possibilidade de criar uma comunidade urbana que permita a existência destas comunidades parciais, mas ao mesmo tempo crie uma consciência de pertença comum de todas as comunidades, é sem dúvida um dos grandes desafios da urbanidade atual. É nesse modelo que terá de se basear a solidariedade social das nossas cidades. É certo que as pequenas comunidades de interesse, em si, já permitem uma base de apoio social em situações de dificuldade dos seus membros, como está a acontecer agora, precisamente com esta grave crise do vírus. Mas é preciso evitar a discriminação de grupos ou de pessoas menos inseridas em grupos específicos, que assim ficariam isolados do panorama da cidade. Nesse sentido, uma cidade tem que vigiar por certa universalidade interna da solidariedade social. Assim como um Estado num país garante uma certa aplicação universal e justa dos direitos, assim a organização de uma cidade deve velar pela aplicação universal e justa de um conjunto de direitos aos seus cidadãos. Poderíamos sintetizar este ponto número 5 do seguinte modo, relativamente a uma primeira abordagem à questão das comunidades pós-digitais, com inspiração em dois sociólogos, o suíço Felix Stalder e o italiano Antonio Casilli, que publica frequentemente em francês. Há uma análise do impacto dos modelos digitais sobre os modelos analógicos de comunidade, sobretudo relativamente à valorização das relações gratuitas. Surge, no entanto, no horizonte o perigo do tribalismo urbano. Mas a era pós-digital apresenta ainda uma outra vertente. Tendo em conta o desenvolvimento das tecnologias de terceiro grau, portanto, são aquelas cuja interação se dá entre tecnologia e tecnologia, sem presença direta do humano, e tendo em conta a possível aplicação dessa relação intratecnológica a um modelo que poderíamos considerar de quarto grau, portanto, no qual as tecnologias interagem com a natureza e com os humanos, a era pós-digital já não se concentra na construção utópica de comunidades puramente digitais, separadas, portanto, do mundo analógico, como um mundo alternativo. O mundo pós-digital é um mundo que ganhou consciência de que o valor das tecnologias digitais está na sua aplicação e no impacto que possam ter sobre o mundo precisamente analógico, mesmo quando muitas vezes o virtualizam, pelo menos tendencialmente. Hoje, as tecnologias digitais já constituem o nosso cotidiano, que não deixa por isso de ser analógico e de ser constituído por pessoas de carne e osso, mas nas suas relações corpóreas, na proximidade, por exemplo, de uma cidade, ou de um bairro, ou de uma região, nessa proximidade são fortemente influenciados porque na mesma proximidade comunitária inserem e integram as tecnologias. Portanto, são permanentemente influenciados e, em certa medida, até dependentes do uso das tecnologias. Isso tem a ver, no fim de contas, com o nosso uso cotidiano das tecnologias digitais. Poderíamos, mais uma vez, sintetizar este ponto, número 5, do seguinte modo. As comunidades pós-digitais, neste segundo aspecto, correspondem à integração direta da tecnologia no cotidiano. Essa tecnologia pode promover a realização pessoal, com a liberdade correspondente, e promover os vínculos comunitários, na medida em que nos permite a ligação de uns aos outros. Ao mesmo tempo, tendo em conta que as tecnologias são tendencialmente globais, permite a abertura à universalidade do humano, para além do contexto da própria cidade, se assim quisermos considerar. Seja como for, e para terminar, vivemos numa época essencialmente urbana e atravessada por experiências e desafios interessantíssimos relativamente às formas de interação humana. Uma comunidade ou uma cidade à altura, uma cidade inteligente e, portanto, à altura das exigências contemporâneas, relativamente aos sujeitos, relativamente à sustentabilidade e mesmo relativamente à ecologia integral do seu perfil citadino, terá que ser uma cidade integradora ou inclusiva. Em primeiro lugar, terá que ser capaz de integrar os indivíduos sem anular a sua individualidade. E essa foi, sem dúvida, uma das grandes conquistas da modernidade ocidental. mas ao mesmo tempo terá que ser capaz de construir uma vida comunitária que permita superar o anonimato e alimentar a necessidade humana permanente de vínculos interpessoais e mesmo institucionais. Aliás, esta fase da crise do vírus que estamos a viver tem revelado muito explicitamente a necessidade que sentimos desses vínculos pessoais na proximidade do trabalho, da família, da cidade, da convivência, da diversão, etc. Claro que, para que isso seja possível, terá que salvaguardar e promover a existência das pequenas comunidades, espontâneas, abertas e gratuitas. Caso contrário, a vida dos cidadãos passa a ser controlada e manipulada por sistemas anónimos. Mas terá que conseguir integrar esse nível, o nível das comunidades, no nível global da comunidade urbana total, sem que esta se torne nem meramente abstrata, enfim, uma referência, enfim, como nas grandes metrópoles, a cidade de São Paulo como cidade é um ente abstrato, sem impacto, portanto, na vida dos indivíduos, nem, por outro lado, ser totalitária, que é o perigo, eventualmente, das cidades mais pequenas, com controle total dessa vida, ou então através do recurso às tecnologias para, e simplesmente para esse controle. Uma cidade atual terá que conseguir integrar também as tecnologias no cotidiano dos sujeitos, sem colocar estes dois polos, tecnologia e sujeito humano, em conflito. Porque as tecnologias podem constituir, sem dúvida, um elemento extremamente eficaz na elaboração de um cotidiano compensador, do ponto de vista pessoal e do ponto de vista comunitário. Aliás, atualmente, talvez sejam o principal artífice dos vínculos comunitários. É a experiência que estamos a fazer precisamente nesta fase, novamente, do vírus. Aquilo que vai mantendo os nossos vínculos que não podemos ter em presença pessoal, embora desejemos vir a tê-los, claro, estão a ser as redes digitais. A mediação das tecnologias também permitirá, de forma fácil, a abertura da cidade e dos seus habitantes a um horizonte universal que evite o tribalismo. Agora já não seria o tribalismo dentro da cidade, entre as diversas comunidades locais, mas o tribalismo na relação da cidade com o seu exterior. Quase como se houvesse uma possível recuperação das cidades-estado. Se é certo que o horizonte da cidade será cada vez mais o nosso horizonte fundamental, é aí onde vivemos, a nossa referência de base, não podemos regressar à modalidade das cidades-estado. Somos cidadãos do mundo e o uso da tecnologia cada vez nos torna mais conscientes disso. Mas seremos cidadãos tanto mais responsáveis, concretamente, e tanto mais felizes nas nossas relações sociais, quanto mais soubermos viver o dia a dia dessa cidadania universal numa cidadania local, feita de vínculos reais, de carne e osso, com nomes, ainda que apoiados e até promovidos e intensificados e profundamente transformados por tecnologias digitais. Mas há que ter sempre em atenção que, assim como as tecnologias podem ajudar a justiça e a solidariedade sociais, nomeadamente no contexto e no horizonte de uma cidade, também podem provocar a injustiça, nomeadamente através da info-exclusão. Uma cidade inteligente terá que ser consciente do enorme papel e significado das tecnologias para a construção de uma realidade mais humana e, por isso, terá que estar atenta e vigiar a possibilidade de que o uso das tecnologias possa provocar sociedades menos humanas em vez de contribuir para a humanização das sociedades enquanto humanização das suas comunidades. Muito obrigado pela atenção e peço desculpa, enfim, por esta modalidade não poder eventualmente corresponder àquilo que seria uma presença pessoal para o nosso debate e a nossa discussão. Muito obrigado.
Good morning and welcome to this session on smart society and communities. I will, in my presentation, use a number of examples to highlight trends from Europe and globally on the transformation of service delivery. My name is Morten. I am Danish and have for the last 4 years worked as an advisor at the University. And for the last 2 decades, I have been working mainly in the public and the private sector. 15 plus of those years have been on digital transformation, both as a consultant in the private sector, as a researcher at the European Institute of Public Administration, and as a civil servant in the Danish Agency for Digitization. I have through those years been privileged to work in countries in Europe, Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa on this topic. UNU itself is part of a system of think tanks within the UN system. One of these units are in Portugal, and the other 15 are scattered around the globe. We are roughly 800 staff. Before we start, it's worth reminding ourselves what public service is. Narrowly defined, it is services provided by government to people and businesses within its jurisdiction. This is mainly defined by geography and things like citizenship and residency. Services can either be provided directly or indirectly by third parties while being financed by the public sector. It is worth differentiating between 2 types of public service. There's core public services, which you must do as a citizen and business due to legal requirements. This could be paying your tax, applying for licenses, and so forth. The second category adds value. This means that public services are a choice. You vote due to your civic duty, or you use sports facilities and public parks due to a personal value of doing so. It is also worth remembering that services can be a combination of things. There is information-based services, i.e. questions to answers. For instance, how old do I have to be to apply for pension? How much can I get? When do I get it? Based on this information, I may do a transaction. In order to complete the transaction, I must identify myself and justify why I'm eligible by providing my personal information such as ID number, my income level, my marital status, and where I live. It is also worth keeping in mind that transformation is the complete change of things, by its form, its nature, its appearance. The aim is to improve it. So when we talk about digital transformation, we are essentially talking about technology and innovation. So what is governments grappling with globally? Well, we're trying to create more for less, but we're not always sure how. We're looking at increasing growth and productivity, but not always sure what is possible or feasible. We're looking at enabling access, develop trust, and improve the quality of services. But we also grapple with doing that on an equitable basis in both urban and rural areas. What about the people that have no access or no skills? Is that a barrier? And how does that relate to people that just don't want to? And what is the role of government, authorities, and of individuals in this process? Now, there's no question about it, but in the European context, the increasing number of people and businesses are online on a regular basis. We even see from statistics between 2014 and 2019 that the number of Europeans that interact with government online have increased from 53% to about 62%. Portugal has also seen growth, but this has been at a lower rate of 3 percentage points from 67% to 70%. Now, this is similar in percentage point growth as the front runners, but while they are doing it at a higher level. So we see that while Portugal is now at 70%, we see that countries in Northern Europe like Estonia, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, the Netherlands, and the UK see that people are now interacting with government in more than 85 or even 94% of instances. This is maybe better illustrated by this graph from 2015. We see that in 15, Of the benchmark services, almost 100% were available online in Portugal, but that the use was roughly 58 to 60%. Now, this is very different from the top performing countries in Northern Europe, where they even have similar or lower levels of online service availability, but we see that most of them have usage take-up that exceeds the Portuguese with both 10, 20 and 30 percentage points. There is, in other words, a massive untapped potential in a number of EU countries of using IT in the public sector for service delivery. So what are some of the trends that we are seeing emerging in Europe and globally? Well, first of all, there's a focus on benefit realization and return on investment. Different countries use promotions, marketing, and channel strategies to ensure that e-services are increasingly used because increase in volume gives an incentive to invest. In countries like Denmark, legislation has even been used to ensure that paper is eliminated as a service option and to make the electronic channel the mandatory or the one by default. Now that gives an incentive to invest, but if services are badly designed, people will require help or they will resist the use of the channel. So user-friendliness underpins the choice of the digital channel and the volume of that channel. It also helps minimize the number of requests for assistance, which in turn optimizes the return on our IT investments. In other words, user-friendliness and ease of use is not only good service, it is good business. So some of the areas that are particularly common across the world in relation to service delivery and technology is a focus on intergovernmental regulation and intergovernmental cooperation. So who's in charge? How do we allow for organizational change? How do we prepare for the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning? What about robotics and automation in assisted living? How do we look at whole of government to break down silos, design thinking, and user centricity? Closer to the financial departments, we see that call centers and online services are particularly in focus because they are cheaper. So in the Nordic context, we see that call centers and online service is about 2 to 4 times cheaper than paper or physical service channels. Due to the bureaucracy and the lack of identifiers and data exchange, the Inter-American Development Bank has estimated that this potential in the Latin American context is up to 75 times that. But that again requires identification and signatures in the digital realm, data exchange and reuse between different entities and different levels of government. So these are trends we also see across the world. Again, with the identity, we see security, not only for data protection, privacy, but also to ensure that it's technology agnostic, i.e. can work on any device, whether it's a smartphone, a tablet, or PC. We also see that service delivery is still largely fragmented and siloed across Europe and globally. The last 2 decades have seen the emergence of single portals or one-stop shops through different formats. Portugal is no different, and the citizen portal here focus mainly on central government services. The same is the case in Italy or in the UK. Now, the level of maturity is somewhat higher in some of the Nordic countries or in countries like Singapore, South Korea, or New Zealand, where service portals not only link to central government services, but to regional and local authority services, providing a whole of government approach. But we also see that the more mature portals are now trying to merge into more personalized, proactive service providers, i.e. providing services before people even know that they're entitled to them. So for instance, countries are looking at providing pensions even without you applying for it, because government knows how old you are, what you're entitled to, and often they also have your bank account details from different engagement with you. Digital identities and signatures in themselves can also be good business. The Estonian government has estimated that the benefit of e-signature is equivalent to 2% of GDP on an annual level in both the public and private sector. While that might be over-optimistic, even half of that is not to be sniffled at. In Denmark, we also see that over 90% of Danes use their EID and electronic signature on a regular basis for both public and private services through a public-private partnership. This is partly due to a different approach. Danes automatically get an electronic identity and signature when they turn 15. They are actually not having to apply for it. It is an active opt-out. So on a similar approach, we see that less than 11% of Danes get paper post from the government. The other 90+% gets it digitally. In fact, the digital post box is also a public-private partnership where you can both do two-way secure digital communication with the public sector, but you can also receive all your private mail from your employer, your banks, your insurers in the digital post box, thereby increasing the benefit of the investment in the digital post box through the incorporation of private services. In terms of volume, in Denmark, with a population of 5.6 million people, 6 to 8.5 digital messages are exchanged on a monthly basis between government, citizens, and businesses. The elimination of paper in over 90% of all communication has resulted in about 300 million euros being saved in the Danish government on an annual basis since 2015. In terms of regulation and legal risks, there are also opportunities. In Estonia, citizens can now safely and securely access personal data online, and they can see if government have accessed it and when. They also have the right to see and request the justification from the public entity on why it was accessed. This is aimed to create transparency and trust in government. In Denmark, regulation's been used differently. Regulation's been used to something as simple as banning legal and bureaucratic language use by the public sector, i.e. no blah blah or bureaucratic language in any form of communication between government, citizens, and businesses, but also to ensure logical and recognizable design of government websites and services, no matter the ministry, the regional authority, or the municipality. Similar, digital by default has been made mandatory as the first choice, leading to more than 80% of address changes being changed digitally, 80% of theft being reported digitally, almost 100% of student and school registrations and tax returns being digital, saving approximately 110+ million annually in Denmark since 2015. Now, in terms of other technologies, we see that distributed ledgers like blockchain is largely used for certification. So land registry certificates in Sweden and Georgia are now only based on blockchain and does not exist in paper. Similarly, we see electronic patient journals and other records being managed through decentralized ledgers. We see that also pilots are emerging on identity and digital signatures in Estonia and Korea, but also in the Netherlands, where it is now app-based on a distributed ledger principle, so you, the user, can control what type of personal data from your ID card is exchanged when you're confirming whether or not you have a driver's license, if you're above 18, and so forth. Now, we also see that the internet is used for elections. Estonia is probably the most prominent example and the longest serving example in this category. While it is not statistically proven that the turnout in elections have increased through internet voting, we see that approximately 1/3 of all votes in Estonia are currently given online. Interestingly, 25% of the votes cast in the last two elections were given by 55-year-olds or people above that age. Also interesting is that the majority of votes cast on the internet is by women, and that the largest growth is seen in women over 55 living in rural areas, showing that technology is becoming more and more common even for our older colleagues. Now, user-friendliness, as I said, was good business. We see early examples from back in 2007 when Amsterdam City Hall tried to streamline the process for hotel, cafe and restaurant licenses by merging it into more of a proactive approach, with renewals being automated or semi-filled out, saving small businesses and family-owned businesses time and money. We also see that participatory and transparency with citizens, particularly at a local government level, is increasing. So participatory budgeting emerging in the Brazilian context in places like Curitiba and Porto Alegre are popular also in Berlin and Hamburg. Portugal, interestingly, is the only country which does participatory budgeting at a central government level in the world. So kudos. We also see that cities and authorities are inspired by what's going on in the private sector. So Stockholm has been inspired by Hotel.com and Booking.com to do their comparative service approach. This means that citizens, like when they choose hotels for their holidays, compare different daycare, school and retirement home options, look at their personal preferences and their wishes before they apply for daycare. This minimizes the number of interactions that are required between the individual applicant and the authorities, thereby saving time and money, but it also gives citizens improved service quality because they choose based on their personal preferences, while having full access to the information describing the different service options. This also leads to administrative burden reduction in combination with technology. So while administrative burden reduction and the elimination of red tape is widely used in the European context, we also see that it's been used to re-engineer and reorganize the public sector in a country like Georgia, allowing them to almost eliminate low levels of corruption in, for instance, building permit applications, licensing, and so forth, while improving the ease of doing business. Portugal is similar good at this at the central government level and has for almost 2 decades run the Simplex program. Now, data in this regard is also very interesting. The once only principle emerging out of Norway some 10 years ago is now widely used and promoted in the European Union. In Denmark itself, the reuse of the most common data sets in government has saved government 3 million euros annually just on not having to invoice each other or having duplicate registries. This is equivalent to 6.7 million in the private sector in Denmark, as they can subscribe on, for instance, address date changes and so forth. So you, as a citizen or business, only change your address with one government agency, and everybody in government, plus your bank, your gym, your mobile provider, can subscribe on that change and is automatically notified. The European Commission has looked at this based on Danish, Dutch and UK examples and estimate that a similar approach of once only in other EU member states could result in government savings up to 5 billion euros annually. Similar, we see that self-service is not only by default, like in the UK, but also mandatory for pedagogical reasons in Denmark. So in Denmark, we've eliminated paper, we've eliminated 80% of post volumes, and we have moved over 80% of all service delivery online, saving us multiple millions every year. On a European level, the European Commission estimates the Danish example, adapted across Europe, would lead to 6.7 billion savings annually. Government as a platform is essentially what's in play. So the consolidation of platforms and databases not only increase the quality of data and minimize the maintenance cost, it also reduces errors. Errors have to be corrected and are therefore costly for authorities. And it is bad service. So this is a particular focus in a number of countries, from South Korea to Australia to Mexico and Brazil. Data can also lead to growth, but this also depends on the conditionalities. But what is interesting is, for instance, machine learning and AI pilots from around the world. Japan is already running an AI pilot that drafts replies to parliamentary inquiries. In Japan, the application of IBM Watson's cognitive AI call center bot has allowed the insurance companies to increase productivity with up to 30%. Similarly, big data and AI applications is estimated to be able to save the US federal government up to 634 million labor hours once fully implemented, equivalent to over $21 billion in labor costs. In other words, the increased use of technology also means that jobs are at risk. In relation to the G20 economies, it's estimated that between 40 and 60% of jobs are at risk of being digitized or automated. But in the medium to long term, traditional female jobs are less affected by male jobs. But what that also means is that the traditional way to mass employment in manufacturing, retail, and services are increasingly not available to the political decision makers, or as they are being automated and replaced with technology such as robotics and AI. Now, there are other things at play than just AI and blockchain and back-end systems. Automated and autonomous vehicles we are already seeing being piloted as public transport during the Estonian presidency of the European Council in 2017. In Denmark, autonomous vehicles are being trialed in rural areas to transport healthcare staff between home visits. Productivity increases for the healthcare providers as they can actually update files and prepare for visits while the car is automatically driving them rather than sitting at the curb doing it. So more time can be spent with the recipient of the home visit, and the productivity can also be increased in the healthcare sector. Now, we also see that new services such as IoT, based on IoT or the Internet of Things, are particularly prevalent in smart cities. Portugal is no different in this regard. So you see that the island of Santos is already looking at doing only electrical vehicles and are doing this as a testbed for Portugal. We're also seeing that in the UK, for instance, that over 29% of all cities are already applied smart city lighting. 8% of them are looking at autonomous vehicles being hired or ordered via smartphones. And we're looking at green buildings and up-to-minute travel information of public and private transport. But here there's different variations. So in Dubai, for instance, sensors are installed in buses, metros, trains, trams, Ubers, Careems, and in taxis, not only to ensure that there's an overview of transport volumes that are live in an integrated app for the city of Dubai, but it also integrates with bicycles and so forth, so people can get up-to-date information. Similarly, the data is used to monitor hard brakes to ensure that drivers of Ubers and buses are safe, and that potholes are registered and then maintained, as well as preparing for urban planning extensions of roads due to traffic volumes. In short, lots of opportunities. But moving to some recommendations, as a Dane that has lived 4 years in Portugal, I have some observations that I want to share with you. First of all, Portugal has an untapped potential for increased online service use. The services are in place, the identity is enabled, but there's limited use. So a cross-governmental common campaign to focus on the use of technology solutions and to ensure that people and businesses are using their online service options would be of benefit. In addition, combining initiatives such as Simplex to streamline service delivery and create more user and business-centric services using life journeys could be combined with the new usability guide for AMA. The usability guide is currently voluntary, but as in the UK, it could be made mandatory for all central government authorities, or it could be made mandatory for all government sites in local, regional, and national government, as we see it in, for instance, Denmark. In addition, there's an increased potential for breaking down data silos. In many cases, foreigners like me are asked to get a printout confirming that my address from local authorities only to take it to another local authority department, or to bring it to the Department of Finance when I apply for my NIF, or to get a printout confirming my NIF at the Department of Finance to bring to the Department of Registries to match it up with my data ownership or my property ownership, and only to take both pieces of paper and attach it to my building application permit for when I renovate my property in the local neighborhood. Now, some of these services can obviously be provided online, and I can print some of these out if I have my electronic identity. But why is local authorities not just able to check the data is as I claim it is when I apply for my building permit? They could have access to the property registry and the address registry and the financial registry to confirm my NIF, my property ownership, and etc. Now, digital identification across platforms is essential, so single sign-on should be further spread out, and Portugal should consider of phasing out the chip-enabled ID card in favor of a more modern solution that can be used on also smartphones and tablets. Here, for instance, an app-based solution can be as cheap as 24 cents, as we see in Dubai, but an ID card is about 24 euros. So a cost saving and user friendliness potential there. Also, digital by default could be an option, and creating digital post for all those who are eligible or able to use digital post. As we see, this is a potential that is highly attractive. Again, digital by default, again, looking at common look and feel and common messaging around public services across government, i.e. letting local, regional, and national authority speak with a common voice and with a common design and user interface. This is essentially important as users only interact with government between 4 and 7 times a year. So having a totally different design every time we enter a government website or a different transactional service is a barrier and not very easy to use. So in conclusion, a few comments. The importance of governance is seen throughout the world. A strong mandate to ensure that regulatory barriers are demolished by a single mandated agency instead of multiple agencies trying to solve the same legal challenge. Ensuring that key enablers like electronic identities and signatures, interoperability standards, and data exchange infrastructure is in place. The strength of the political-driven reform and modernization of the public sector is very well established. But we also see that in countries where strategy change every time the mayor or the minister change leads to slower relative progress than people and countries that have more of a medium to long term and a cyclical approach where each strategy builds on each other. So a high level of intergovernmental cooperation is required. There is also a need for the key enablers, as we have seen in the multiple examples highlighted. This also helps ensure privacy and security. The importance of channel strategies and promotion, and for use feedback from different channels to continuously improve the service experience, are seen as important and as essential drivers for service delivery and service quality. Again, there is a need for a cyclical whole-of-government approach to both personalized and user-centric design. So again, the importance of a common look and feel across services and levels of government is essential. I hope this presentation has been of interest and it has inspired you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or my colleagues in Guimarães. We'll be happy to help. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
So, good morning, everybody. I'm really glad to be here as a moderator of this session. I would like to start by say thank you to our 3 presenters. Very interesting approaches to city phenomenon, very different focus, but I think that the three presenters did a very good job in talking about crucial dimensions of the problem of smart cities, and recalling my notes, the problem of empowering citizens, which was very present in the first presentation, the challenges of integrating new social partners. I really liked the concept, which is technology as a social partner, and the challenges associated to this integration, and finally the potential associated to digital technologies in terms of the enhancement of public services. So we had a quite diverse approach to the smart city conceptualization, and being difficult to ask a single question to the three presenters, I will start by saying that I feel that there is a problem with the, let's say, mainstream conceptualization of smart cities. And this problem is very much related to, let's say, the focus on technology without taking into consideration the complexity and the multidimensional problem which affects our cities. I mean, and this can be the first question for you, for the three of you, which we are, well, not we, because your presentations did show that we don't think like the mainstream approach to the smart cities phenomenon, but many times we are looking at the urban problem as a kind of technological problem. And I think this is something that we should avoid, and we should extend our perspective and our approach to smart cities in a more diversified way, and going beyond the technological dimension. And I would like to hear from you some insights on these needs to go beyond technology when dealing with smart cities. Anyone want to start?
Maybe I could start. I think the whole concept of smart city is really to bring the knowledge to the people in the city. So it's about the inclusive citizen. So, and the technology will provide that. So a smart city is not a technological city. It's a city where the citizens are empowered by having knowledge. So I don't see it as a contradiction. I see it rather, the technology is the mean to achieve the possibility that everyone living in the city, in the neighborhood, in the municipality, has been empowered with knowledge and the possibilities to make decisions for themselves or their families or whatever the kind of decisions there are.
Yeah, I think you are right. Yes, please.
Ligar o microfone, exato. Eu peço antes de mais desculpa por não falar em inglês, mas o meu inglês não é suficientemente fluido para me exprimir livremente. Eu penso que os meus colegas entenderão o português suficientemente. Bom, este era o tema até essencial da minha intervenção, uma vez que serei o único aqui que não trabalha diretamente do ponto de vista técnico com tecnologias, ou pelo menos tão fortemente, mas a integração das tecnologias no contexto social. Portanto, a questão de uma cidade inteligente, assim, diríamos, é um problema de sempre. As cidades sempre foram uma espécie de organismos com a sua inteligência própria. Agora, é inevitável que quando hoje trabalhamos a questão de uma cidade inteligente, no modo atual, ou seja, correspondente à situação atual, é inevitável o envolvimento das tecnologias na elaboração da cidade e na elaboração das relações citadinas. E talvez por as tecnologias serem, diríamos, o específico do mundo contemporâneo, porque muitos outros aspectos são comuns a outras fases da humanidade, nós nos concentremos tanto na integração das tecnologias nessa vida do cidadão. Também, talvez, pelo facto de que as tecnologias possam afetar também negativamente essa vida cotidiana do cidadão. E, portanto, é necessário tematizar o lugar das tecnologias, não só no contributo positivo que possam dar, mas em tudo o resto, para que a vida dos cidadãos continue a ser vida humana, propriamente humana, e não vida manipulada tecnologicamente. É só uma chega.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, there's really a trend in smart cities, both a good and a bad one. So the bad one is that a lot of smart city initiatives are basically just pretending to be smart. They're applying the smart label to very traditional IT projects in their organizational or service silos. Being smart implies that we look holistically. It's about the cross-fertilization of silos with data from other silos to see what is emerging that we weren't necessarily aware of before. So it's really taking the big data and using machine learning, doing the dashboard to see if I do something over here, what's happening over there. Yeah, so this is really where we have to drive this. This can be driven in two ways. We see it as bottom up, so from local businesses, local community associations, really trying to impact the city decision makers, whether it's the bureaucrats or the politicians. Or we see it also top down, where there's a political will to start reorganizing the way the city operates. So you can see classically as an illustration in urban planning. You see a lot of cities around the world, they do individual permits for individual buildings, and each individual building looks beautiful. But when they're merged together on the street, it looks like a mess because no one is looking at it holistically. And that's where we need to drive it. So the government officials actually have a role to try and facilitate this change in behavior and change of working together with the local communities, because it doesn't necessarily happen by itself. So again, you see some classical examples in some cities, like Singapore is a classical one, Barcelona is a classical one, the Dubai example with the road transport data being used not just for ensuring live streaming of traffic volumes, but also merging different types of public transport, using the data to ensure that drivers are driving safely, making sure that we can plan based on traffic volumes. Yeah, you see it in the Latvian context where all the local authorities are really keen on call center bots applied with cognitive learning, but none of them have enough data to feed the AI beast. So they have to work together to accumulate their data in order to teach the AI to actually say something meaningful, because the average municipality doesn't have the volume. They also don't have the funds to currently go out and buy an IBM platform, for instance. So they join together to do this together. And then jointly, they break down the silos and they can apply the technology. So it's really about the collaboration, and it's really around the holistic approach with the different parties that makes up a community, whether it's public, private, or society. And that is required in order for this to get a successful result. Otherwise, we just throw technology at problems without really changing or transforming the way that we want to transform society.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, the one that we have many so-called smart cities that in fact they are smart at the surface, but when we go beneath the surface, we start looking, we start identifying injustice everywhere, problems, social problems, and so on. And this reminds me the case in Milan, in Italy, which is generally considered as a very, very good practice in terms of smart cities. And in fact, the smart city didn't go well with this COVID-19 crisis, as we all unfortunately know. And I think this is a good example of how sometimes the cover of the smart city covers social problems and I would say also political problems and effectiveness problems. So I think it's a very good point. We have, according to our schedule, we have 9 minutes left. So I want to empower you to comments. Please feel free to focus or to go further in some of your arguments about the smart cities and the potential to the development of human societies associated to it. So please feel free to say something more about it.
I mean, let me start, maybe rephrase some of the things I spoke about. And I think with the introduction, let's say we introduce the technological layer, and that layer means we get information to everyone, right? Then, as a consequence of that, we can also introduce the more kind of stakeholder approach and build commons, build things that are owned by people, not owned by a private company, but really owned by the stakeholders. So it kind of it's like in an extreme way. I mean, if you have like a rubber band, if you throw it, it's like communism in a way, right? But it's a combination of the extreme communism and extreme capitalism. But the stakeholders are the guys who actually benefits. So it's not about, but the benefits are there for the people, right? And I think this is something that a smart society could bring forward, which will enable a lot of much better kind of things. You will avoid a lot of losses in different kind of transports, if you like, because people that actually execute something are part of the profit. So they don't go around with an empty lorry the whole day just because they got paid to do it. So they do it because they have a benefit. And I think this kind of introduction of another layer, that the benefits goes to the stakeholder rather than to shareholders, if you call it like that, I think something that can be introduced in the concept of the smart city and very well utilized.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with that observation and that point of view. We see that actually in some of the research that we've done here in UNU. So colleagues of mine did an assessment of about 250 smart city initiatives globally a few years back, and we've been building on that experience through our work. So we see that even if I, as a citizen or resident of a city, participate in something, if I don't see that I've been heard or get feedback from City Hall that this is the results of the consultation, this is how many said A, how many said B, this is why we've made a decision, then I'm not going to engage again. Yeah, I might not have gotten my way, but I understand that I was heard, and I see that, 9 out of 10 had a different opinion, or my suggestion is going to be massively more expensive than the alternative. So by getting that feedback and going into that continuous cycle of input and feedback for continuous service improvement or city improvement, if you want, is one of the driving factors we see in these type of initiatives. But that also requires that the city hall or the ministry and its staff is thinking differently. So we see that often the driver of successful smart city initiatives or smart initiatives in rural communities are people that are looking across silos or across barriers and are facilitating change management. They have very much a focus on change management with their colleagues and with the communities. If they don't have that, they face resistance both within and from the end users in the communities. So we're really talking about more of a change management process and culture and continuous improvement cycles that is enabled by the technology and the data and the information we get out of the technology, rather than, just the technology itself.
Right. I mean, okay. I would like to connect to that, and I think, in this relation, you could start to think about maybe the smart city as a learning city, because everything is about the learning experience, right? So change management is about learning. It's learning organization, learning city. So I think if the stakeholders learn something, they will also contribute, and then it will be like a snowball getting into an avalanche, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. You see that even in classical service design. So your tax application online, for instance, the experience of the good organizations that manage their channel and this channel strategies very well and are very successful in interacting with citizens and businesses are the ones that look across channels. Because what happens when the website or the e-service is down? It's not the IT department that realizes this first. It's the call center when people call. So you need to have that information. So for instance, with the very nice Ministry of Health COVID site in Portugal, they have lots of data. But what is missing? When is the lockdown finishing? There's not a single date of when the lockdown is finishing on the front page. Neither with the Ministry of Interior or with the police. They have the starting dates, they have the regulations, but when are we finishing? And that's the question that most people are going to ask and look for all the time. So it comes back with thinking from not your organizational business point of view, but rather the end user's perspective and what creates value and benefit to them in their different contexts, rather than just business as usual. So it's a change of culture within the organizations. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, including engaging with citizens in a constructive way. It requires that we change as individuals as well.
Okay, thank you. Please, we have 2 minutes left.
Sim, eu já agora poderia intervir, talvez em último lugar, só para acentuar que é importante, numa cidade inteligente, não considerar a cidade como um sujeito, como tal. Os sujeitos da cidade são as pessoas que constituem a cidade, em qualquer momento. E nós hoje temos recursos que podem criar a ilusão de que o sujeito é a própria cidade. É preciso não esquecer que a cidade é o local onde atualmente vive a maioria das pessoas, é o nosso contexto, o contexto urbano, o contexto principal de vida, e a finalidade última de uma cidade inteligente é a participação, em última instância, aquilo que chamaríamos a felicidade dos seus habitantes, a vida dos seus habitantes. E é importante considerar que tudo, desde a organização, o próprio governo, as próprias tecnologias, tem o seu sentido na medida em que promovem a qualidade de vida de cada dos habitantes.
Okay, so I think that we have run out of time. Let me thank you for your presentations and also for your comments. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the organization also. And see you soon, I hope, physically, not on a digital platform. But anyway, thank you very much. And we finish here. Thank you.